Ladies and gentlemen, you were not created to beg. You were not formed from the dust of the earth, breathed into by the living God, to crawl after what has walked away from you. When she chooses another man, let her go. This is not bitterness, this is not pride, this is truth, and it is freedom. In the garden, the first man lost the presence of the woman not through force or fight, but through a choice hers and his. And God did not stop the moment. He let it unfold. Why? Because he respects free will, even when it breaks hearts, even when it breaks yours. Do not confuse her rejection with your identity. You are not less of a man because she saw someone else and turned away. You are not discarded. You are being redirected. There are things God removes not to harm you, but to heal you. If she has chosen another, that is a door God permitted to close. Will you bang on a closed door while heaven holds open another behind you? What God has for you will not require you to be lesser. It will not require you to beg. It will not require you to compete in the mud for someone who has already walked away. Let her go, not in anger, but in peace. Let her go, not with vengeance, but with vision, because the moment she made her choice, a different chapter began for you, one not of heartbreak, but of healing, not of mourning, but of meaning. The enemy will whisper, you lost, but the Spirit of God thunders, you are being released. Released from soul ties, released from delays, released from the illusion that your destiny depended on her staying. You are not a man because she chose you. You are a man because God formed you. You are not whole because she stayed. You are whole because God completes you. So bless her, forgive her, and let her go. Because in the letting go, God will let loose what is truly yours. Amen. Letting go is one of the hardest things a man can ever do, especially when the one you love chooses someone else. It strikes deep, not just in your heart, but in your sense of identity, your sense of future, your hopes, your prayers, and sometimes even your faith. But there comes a moment, a sacred moment, not defined by emotion but by truth. And in that moment, you must do what feels unnatural but is ultimately divine. You must release her, and you must do it with reverence. This is not the release of resentment, or the bitter casting off born of anger. This is not rejection cloaked in pride. No, this is something far higher, something sacred. This is honoring the freedom of choice that God himself gave to every soul. For if God, in all his omnipotence, does not force himself upon the will of man or woman, who are we to grasp at what chooses to walk away? She made her choice, and in that choice there is a finality you cannot reshape, no matter how strong your love or pure your intentions. We live in a world that celebrates possession, that worships what it can keep and dominate, but the kingdom of God is built on the altar of surrender. What you hold too tightly becomes an idol, and idols always demand blood. Sometimes the blood is your peace, your dignity, your purpose. But when you release someone who has chosen another path, you honor not just her freedom, you honor the order of heaven. Reverence is not weakness. It is strength under discipline. It is the decision to say, God, I do not understand this pain. I do not understand this path, but I trust that you are in control even when my heart feels out of control. That is reverence. That is surrender. That is worship. Letting her go with reverence means blessing her, not cursing her. It means choosing not to rehearse her betrayal or her change of heart like a broken record. It means refusing to let your mind be chained to what is no longer yours. It means not stalking, not pleading, not manipulating. You see, there's a kind of holiness in release. Abraham had to let go of Isaac, his promise, his beloved son, because reverence means trusting God with what is most precious to you. God returned Isaac, but only after Abraham proved he loved the giver more than the gift, and maybe that's what you're walking through now. You were given a gift, a woman, a relationship, a future, and now that gift has walked away. But your test is not whether you can get her back. Your test is whether you can surrender her back to the God who gives and takes away. This act of letting go, when done in the Spirit, becomes a kind of priesthood. You are placing your pain on the altar. You are offering your broken expectations as a burnt offering, and God sees that, He receives that, He honors that. Letting go becomes worship, not just an emotional release, but a spiritual declaration. I will not be bound by what is not mine. I will not fight for what has been removed. I will trust that God is wiser than my heart. And there's something powerful that happens when you release with reverence. You are no longer a slave to someone else's decision. You step back into alignment with your own calling, your own identity. You begin to hear heaven's whisper again, because the noise of desperation begins to quiet. It does not mean the pain disappears overnight, but it does mean that healing begins. And with every day you walk in surrender, your heart softens toward God and strengthens within itself. You will find in time that what you released with reverence, God uses to reframe your destiny. And if something is truly yours in the kingdom, it will never be taken permanently. If it returns, it will return redeemed. If it does not, it was not appointed. So release her, not as one defeated, but as one who trusts. Release her, not as one discarded, but as one elevated. Release her, not with clenched fists, but with open hands lifted in worship. Because the man who learns to release with reverence is the man God can trust with the next season. And what God has ahead for you will never require you to hold onto something, or someone, that has already let go of you. For when she chooses another man, it can feel like the ground beneath your feet has crumbled. Your thoughts race, your heart aches, and everything in you wants to ask, what was wrong with me? That's the voice of pain, the voice of rejection, the voice of a soul trying to assign blame in the aftermath of heartbreak. But you must learn to silence that voice with a deeper truth. Her choice does not define your identity. Her decision does not rewrite your worth. Too many men collapse into shame when a woman walks away, as if her leaving is evidence of their failure, their inadequacy, or their insufficiency. But let this truth settle into your spirit. You are not who she says you are. You are not who she failed to see. You are who God created you to be, and that identity is untouchable by human rejection. You were a man before she came. You are a man even after she leaves, and you will still be a man of value, purpose, and calling long after the ache fades. You must understand something fundamental. People choose others for many reasons, and often those reasons have nothing to do with your worth. They may choose based on their fears, their needs, their wounds, their desires. Sometimes they choose because they are running from something in themselves, not because they're seeing clearly what's in front of them. When she chooses another man, it may reflect more about where she is in her journey than about anything you did or didn't do. Do not internalize her rejection as a verdict against your masculinity or your value. The moment you allow someone else's choice to dictate your identity, you become a slave to their opinion, and that is a prison God never designed for you to live in. You were created to walk in freedom, not in the chains of another's rejection. Your identity must be rooted in something far deeper, far stronger, and far more unshakable than anyone else's approval. It must be anchored in the truth of who God says you are. He calls you son. He calls you chosen. He calls you beloved. He calls you enough, and no one's departure can silence his voice. When Jesus stood before the crowds, rejected, abandoned, betrayed, he didn't question who he was. He didn't allow the rejection of man to alter his confidence in the Father's affirmation. That is your model, not to deny the pain, but to rise above the lies it tries to plant in your heart. You don't need to become hard or bitter. You don't need to take on false bravado to prove you're okay. True strength is in knowing your value even when others fail to see it. True healing is found not in pretending the pain doesn't exist, but in refusing to let it redefine who you are. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel the weight of what was lost, but do not let grief distort the truth. What you feel is real, but it is not always accurate. Pain has a way of lying to us. It tells us we weren't enough. It tells us we were disposable. It tells us that maybe if we were better, stronger, more attractive, more successful, she would have stayed. But let me tell you something that breaks that lie. The right person will recognize your value, not question it. The right person won't need to compare you to another or walk away to know your worth. And when someone walks away, you don't lose your identity, you reveal it. Because in the silence, in the stillness after she's gone, you get to rediscover that your identity never depended on her love to begin with. You were made in the image of the living God. That means your worth is inherent. You are not less because she left. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not forgotten. Sometimes it takes the departure of the wrong person to awaken you to who you really are. So lift your head even through the tears. Walk forward even if your steps are slow. Don't chase after someone to prove your value. Stand firm in it and know this. What God has ordained for your life is not contingent upon anyone's validation. You are still called. You are still worthy. You are still a man of destiny. Her choice may have changed the relationship, but it did not change you. You are not defined by who walked away. You are defined by who formed you, who loves you, and who still holds your future in his hands. For, oh, when she chooses another man and walks away, your mind may scream that you've lost everything. Your heart may feel hollow, like something sacred has been torn from you. But what if I told you that what left you might not be your loss, but God's redirection? What if this wasn't rejection from life, but repositioning from heaven? The sovereignty of God means this. Nothing happens outside of his awareness, outside of his reach, or outside of his ability to redeem. You have to understand something deeper than your emotions and stronger than your circumstances. God is sovereign. He is not a passive observer of your heartbreak. He is not standing off in the distance hoping things work out. No, he is intimately involved in the details, even in the breakup, even in the betrayal, even in the silence that follows. His sovereignty does not end where your confusion begins. In fact, it often starts there. Sometimes we assume that just because we loved someone deeply, that person must be a part of God's plan for our life. We tie our future to them, we build dreams around them, and when they leave, especially when they choose someone else, it feels like those dreams are buried in their absence. But God's plans are never dependent on one person's decision. His purpose for you cannot be canceled by human choice. He is not surprised by who left. He's not caught off guard by her decision. He knew, and he allowed it. Now, that word, allowed, can be hard to swallow, but in God's sovereignty, allowance is often mercy. It is protection. It is the removal of something that would eventually hinder your growth, dim your light, or drag you into a future that was never designed for you. What feels like a tragedy today may one day be revealed as a turning point, a doorway into a season that is far more aligned with your true calling and character. We often pray for God to open doors, forgetting that sometimes he answers by closing them first. We ask him to lead us into purpose, but when he begins pruning relationships that cannot go where he's taking us, we call it loss. Yet pruning is not punishment, it's preparation. A tree that is never pruned grows wild, tangled, and fruitless. God prunes to make you fruitful, not to make you empty. So when she chooses another man, it may not be about your failure at all. It may be the hand of God removing someone who could not love you in the way he intended you to be loved. Someone who could not walk with you in the purpose he's called you to. Someone who, if they stayed, would have distorted your focus, your peace, and your ability to hear him clearly. And while your heart cries out for answers, heaven is orchestrating something deeper, a redirection. This is not just about a relationship. This is about alignment. God is too intentional to let your life be built on an unstable foundation. He will remove the wrong materials before he begins construction. He will tear down the structure you thought was perfect, not to hurt you, but to rebuild it on something stronger, eternal, and rooted in truth. And sometimes redirection requires rejection. It takes faith to believe this. It takes spiritual maturity to stop asking, "Why did she leave?" and start asking, "God, what are you doing in me through this?" It takes humility to say, "This hurts, but I trust you anyway," because trust doesn't mean the pain disappears. Trust means you believe that pain has purpose. Joseph in the Bible was betrayed by his brothers and thrown into a pit. That betrayal felt like the end, but it was actually the beginning of a journey that led him to the palace. And when he finally stood in that place of purpose, he could look back and say, "What you meant for evil, God meant for good." That's what the sovereignty of God does. It takes betrayal and turns it into promotion. It takes abandonment and transforms it into alignment. So take a breath, wipe your tears. You have not lost control, because you were never meant to be in control. That belongs to God, and He is good. Even when you're broken, He is guiding. Even when you're rejected, He is working. Even when she chooses another man, heaven is not panicked. Heaven is positioning you. And in time, when the dust settles and your heart begins to heal, you will look back and say with certainty, "Thank you, God, for not giving me what I thought I needed. Thank you for taking what I could not let go of. Thank you for your sovereignty, because without it, I would have settled for less than you destined me to become." There is a powerful truth that few dare to fully embrace. Sometimes what God removes is not meant to be reclaimed. It's not a punishment. It's not a failure. It's divine intervention. And if God, in His wisdom and love, begins to remove someone from your life, especially someone you deeply loved, then chasing after what He has removed is not love. It's rebellion against His will. It's holding onto what He's already let go of. And nothing brings more heartache, confusion, and spiritual stagnation than trying to hold on to what God is releasing. When she chooses another man, it's easy to feel that if you just tried harder, prayed longer, loved better, she would come back. That if you could just explain your worth, prove your loyalty, or remind her of your shared history, she'd return. But sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is to go after what God Himself is pulling away. God doesn't just call us to receive. He also calls us to release. And there's no faith in clinging to what He's asked us to lay down. There is a point in every believer's life where God will test not just your desire, but your obedience. And obedience isn't proven by how tightly you hold on to your blessing. It's proven by how freely you let go when He says, "It's time." You see, we often cry out for God's will, but we only mean it when His will aligns with our own desires. The real test comes when His will takes you through the valley, through the silence, through the heartbreak. When He says no to the thing you wanted most. When He lets her walk away. You must understand this. If you insist on chasing what He's removed, you'll delay your healing, sabotage your future, and contaminate your spirit. You'll be walking backward while God is trying to lead you forward. You'll be planting seeds in a field He already declared barren, and no matter how much effort you pour into it, nothing will grow because He has already closed that chapter. God will not compete with your idol. And when your desire to hold on to her becomes stronger than your desire to submit to Him, you've crossed a dangerous line. She may have been a gift for a season, but when she chooses another man and God does not intervene to bring her back, it's not your job to chase her. It's your calling to trust Him. We often forget that God sees the whole picture. You saw the present, He saw the future. You saw love, He saw limitation. You saw forever, He saw a detour, and in His mercy, not His cruelty, He allowed her to walk. That pain you feel now may be the very thing that protects you from something far more devastating down the road. What feels like rejection is often God's redirection, wrapped in temporary grief. Remember this, God will never require you to beg for what is truly yours. He will never lead you to compromise your dignity, your identity, or your calling to keep someone who has already left. Love never manipulates, love never begs, love releases. And if she made her choice, the most holy thing you can do is honor that and let her go. Don't misunderstand this as a call to become cold or indifferent. This isn't about bitterness. It's about trust. It's about resting in the belief that what is gone is not greater than what is coming. That what God is preparing is far more suited to your soul than what you're mourning. There is peace in surrender. There is healing in acceptance. There is clarity in letting go. If you chase what God is removing, you may win back a person, but lose your purpose. You may reclaim a relationship, but forfeit your peace. And in the end, you will always come back to this truth. Nothing taken from you in obedience to God is ever a true loss. It is a seed. And from that seed, God will birth something greater in His time, His way. So stop chasing what left. Stop replaying the conversations. Stop trying to rewrite the ending. God already wrote the next chapter, and it doesn't require her to be in it. What it requires is your surrender, your faith, your willingness to walk away from what He's closed, and your boldness to believe that what's ahead is still beautiful. Because He is still sovereign, let her go. Don't chase her, follow Him. For when she chooses another man, your heart may feel shattered, your future suddenly uncertain, and your soul left questioning how to move forward. But as painful as the loss may be, what you do next matters more than what she did. You have a choice to make in the ashes of that rejection. Will you stay stuck in the wreckage, or will you rise from it? God never ends something without offering a new beginning. And the new beginning He has for you does not come through clinging to the past, but through walking forward into your healing and purpose. Healing is not passive. It is not waiting for time to numb the pain or hoping someone new will come along and fill the void. Healing is a decision. It's a posture of the soul that says, I will not let this break me. I will not let this moment define me. I will let God do His work in me. And often, the first step to healing is silence. The kind of silence where you stop rehearsing the betrayal in your mind, stop replaying the conversations, stop scanning her social media for signs of regret or return. That silence is sacred. It creates the space for God to speak. In the stillness, God begins to do what no human can. He starts to rebuild you from the inside out. He starts healing not just your heart, but the places your identity was wrapped around that person. He pulls your roots out of the soil of someone else's approval and replants them in the truth of who you are in Him. This is why heartbreak, as painful as it is, can be holy, because it brings you back to your foundation. It strips away the noise, and it shows you what you truly believe about yourself, about God, and about love. You are not meant to spend your life in mourning over someone who walked away. You are meant to live. You are meant to grow. You are meant to walk into the fullness of your calling. But calling and healing go hand in hand. God won't take you into the next chapter of your purpose with wounds you refuse to let Him treat. You must allow Him access to the deepest places, places you may have tried to hide behind strength, pride, or distraction. The truth is, the pain will either grow you or poison you, and the difference lies in your surrender. Let God transform this pain into wisdom. Let it teach you about your boundaries, your worth, your patterns. Let it humble you where you need humbling, but also affirm you where you forgot who you were. And as He heals you, He will also begin to refine your vision. You will no longer be drawn to what merely looks good, but to what is good for your soul. You'll begin to recognize that the version of love you thought you lost wasn't real love, if it could walk away so easily. And while you heal, God will prepare the right people for your future, the ones who won't need convincing to stay, who won't compete with your purpose, who won't confuse your value. But you won't be ready to receive them if you're still looking backward. Healing clears the lens of your heart. It removes the residue of past rejection so you can see clearly what is truly from God when it comes. Then, from that healing, purpose begins to flow again. You start to dream again, to create again, to walk in confidence again. You realize your identity is not tied to a title, boy, friend, fiancé, husband. It's tied to your sonship in Christ, and sons don't beg, sons don't chase, sons don't settle, sons walk in inheritance, sons walk in grace. Sons walk in purpose. So rise, let her go, let God do the heart surgery, let Him rebuild you in the quiet place. Trust that He will redeem the time, restore the joy, and resurrect the dreams. The story doesn't end with her departure. In fact, the story you were born to live may be just beginning. Your future is not behind you, it's ahead, and God is already there, waiting for you to heal, to trust, and to step forward in faith. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not forgotten, you are not behind, you are in process, and in that process God is making you stronger, wiser, freer, and ready for the life, the love, and the legacy that is truly yours.